Hey everyone, if you're driving a Nissan Patrol or an Infiniti QX, you might be all too familiar with a frustrating issue: rough idling, cylinder misfire, low power, randomly appearing check engine light, and a mysterious P062B diagnostic trouble code. It's that kind of problem that pops up out of nowhere, sometimes disappears on its own, but then starts coming back more and more frequently, right? Well, if that sounds like your car, you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to show you a quick, effective, and surprisingly simple DIY fix for this common issue that can save you a ton of money on dealership repairs. The culprit, often it's nothing more than a loose pin connection on your engine control unit or ECU. And the best part, you can fix this with minimal tools. Let's get started. So, what exactly is happening? The P062B code points to an internal control module performance issue, which means your ECU isn't communicating properly. And for many Nissan Patrol and Infiniti QX owners, this often comes down to one of the electrical connectors on the ECU itself. Over time, vibration and heat can cause the tiny metal pins within these connectors to loosen, leading to intermittent electrical contact. That's why your symptoms can be so sporadic at first, but then become more persistent. We're going to dive into the top ECU connector, as that's usually where the problem lies. Removing the battery mount and ECU are optional. For the P062B problem, which typically involves the top ECU connector, this step is actually optional. But I'll show you how to remove these two in case you need to work on middle or bottom ECU connectors. Sometimes wire harness can also be damaged warping into the battery mount, so it's really worth checking it. Now we're getting to the heart of the matter. Locate the top ECU connector. You'll see a locking mechanism. Gently push on the small tooth or tab to release the primary lock. Once released, you can lift up the main locking lever, which will physically push the connector out of its socket on the ECU. Be gentle, don't force anything. With the connector free, it's time to carefully disassemble it to get to those pesky loose pins. Remember, the top connector is the one that usually causes this issue, so we're focusing on this one. First, you'll see a locking bracket. This needs to be angled at about 45 degrees to be removed. Gently wiggle it out. Next, there might be a small zip tie holding some wires. Carefully cut this zip tie, making absolutely sure you don't nick or cut any of the wires. That would be a whole new problem. Now, locate the square frame. You'll need to pry out the top and bottom small locks to release it. Once that's off, you'll see the back cover. There are usually two small locks on the corners that you need to loosen. Once unlocked, pull the back cover straight up and off. Finally, the front cover has two sets of locks, top and bottom. You'll need to lift these twice, gently prying them up to release the cover. And finally, you'll find a silicone seal. Remove that and you'll have full access to the individual pin sockets. Now for the actual fix. Look closely at the individual sockets within the connector. You might visually see that some of them have larger gaps or appear looser than others. These are your culprits. They're not making proper contact with the ECU pins. To tighten these up, I like to use a needle from a medical syringe. It's thin and precise. You can also carefully flatten the very tip of the needle using pliers. If you don't have one, you can also use a small sewing needle or even a tiny jeweler's screwdriver. Now, with extreme caution, insert the tip of your chosen tool into the loose socket and gently move the tiny metal tab inside. The metal is quite soft, so use only a small amount of force. The goal is to slightly close the gap, making the connection tighter. Start very slow. You'll be able to feel and often see the difference as the metal tab moves. Once all the loose sockets feel snug, you're ready to reassemble everything. If this video was helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more DIY projects. Also, please share your feedback and experiences in the comments below. Your insights might help someone else with the same problem.